What's up, everybody? So, my last tutorial video about a clean Psytrance bass was really nice. A lot of people liked it, but we need to continue on that subject. The bass is still not complete, and I want to teach you guys how to align phase and to create layers for your bass so that it sounds nice and powerful and it has a nice attack that makes that snappy sound. For this video though, we're going to start with aligning the kick with the bass. It's very important to align the low frequency information from the bass and the kick. They need to be uniform between each other, not get in each other's way, and at the same time be clean and concise. So we're gonna start from where we ended on the last tutorial video. We're gonna align the kick and bass so that on the next video we can talk about putting layers on it. Let's not waste any more time and get right into it. Alright guys, so this is where we left off on the last bass tutorial, which is the bass line that sounds just like this. Okay, so the kick and bass sound pretty good, but there's some low-end problems that are going on. There's this deafening frequency that is happening on the bass. You know, the bass sounds like it's weirdly louder than the kick when it actually isn't, and this comes due to alignment and also managing the harmonics and stuff like that. So the first thing I noticed is that on the last video we pushed the second harmonic a bit too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dial this back to 1.5 instead of 3, and it's going to sound a bit better like this. Yeah, it sounds a bit better already, but to make it even better, we need to use some alignment and we need to make the bass a bit tighter and not get in the way of the transient of the kick. So the first thing we're going to do is fix the phase, and for that I'm going to use Voxengo's PHA 979, which is a great plugin, by the way, guys. You should go get a copy of this. I did a force mono over here just because it's easier to move this knob. If you don't have force mono, you have to move both of these, and it's kind of silly because the bass is in mono anyways. So turn the delay off. We don't need the delay, but we need to change the phase of the bass. As you can see over here, if I go to 0, these settings are the way the bass sounds, just like that. Now if you listen to the bass by itself and you flip the phase, nothing's going to change. Let me show you. Let me flip at 180 degrees. Nothing really changes. So why are we adjusting the phase? Well, the phase can only be measured and looked at when you're playing it in relationship to the kick. Let me show you the difference that it makes when you're playing it with the kick. So this is without any change in phase. And this is flipping the phase of the bass 180 degrees. All of a sudden it sounds like the low end energy from the bass just absolutely disappeared, almost like you added a low cut to it. But the information is still there. Why does it disappear? Because when we flip the phase, there's a lot of cancellation going on between the lows of the kick and the lows of the bass that cancel each other out. Now we need to find the right balance of phase so that the low end of the kick and the low end of the bass sound uniform with each other. This is the setting that I made that sounds the best. So we're actually maintaining the flip of phase, but we're bringing it 45 forward just to get some of that low end energy back. So this is how it sounds with the 45 setting. Now you can hear the low energy back, right? And this makes the low end a bit more balanced. Let me show you an A and B of this setting with the Voxengo and without any settings. So this is without any phase correction. The low end of the bass just really overpowers the low end of the kick, and you never want that. You want the low end of the kick to sound as powerful as the low end of the bass. And now this is with the correction. Much better, much tighter. Now there's another problem that you have with basses, that is the fact that, you know, if we export this right now, so let me show you this. If I export this to audio, and I turn this off, you can see over here that when the next kick starts, you still have all of this low end information that is still not done on the bass. You see over here, it continues all the way here. And this low end information actually makes the transient of the kick be not very clear. So we need the bass to end right before the transient of the kick hits over here, so that the transient of the kick is very clean and the mix becomes a lot tighter and a lot cleaner with that. So how do we do this? Well, let me delete this, come back over here. You can do it two ways. You can export it to audio and just cut it and fade it out yourself, but you can also get half of the job done by just adding an LFO tool over here. This first one is just to add a bit more of a groove to it. As you can see over here, it's on a quarter note. It just makes the first note a bit lower, you know, so it sounds like this with this LFO tool. So this is without it. This is great, but this is not taking care on the bass. As you can see over here, if you click on this button on the LFO tool, it actually shows you the waveform going through the LFO. So let's look at it. You see this information over here is still not done with because we're not fading to 0 over here. So you can actually add a second LFO tool at the end of the chain. So you can just fade out the volume before the kick hits, and then you maintain this in silence for this very short period of time over here to get rid of that. So if we turn the audio form on, you can see that it gets everything off. Right, like you can see over here this gray line. The gray line is exactly what it took off, and the pink line shows you what it's actually coming out of the LFO tool. So we fixed that problem with this. So this was with it, and without the two LFO tools, it sounds like this. So it's clearer on the transients, and you know, it makes it easier when you go through the mixing process when your track is already done. It helps with the mastering, all sorts of stuff. Problems can happen when it's not that tight. But let's export this in audio. So let's say bass BIP2. And let's look at this wavetable again. So if we go over here, there you go. You see it fades it out perfectly, and right when the kick hits over here, we have no information from the bass happening anymore. So now I can show you something else we can do. So as you may have noticed on rolling basses, the first note of these three that happen on every beat is actually still happening when the kick is still at a very high volume. And you know, the way we made the bass over here, this first note still has all of that sub information. I will show you on the next videos how to make this first bass not have the lowest harmonic to clean it up so it doesn't clash with the kick. But this is a different technique that you can use when you actually don't create two different basses, one with sub information and one without it. If we go to this exported audio track over here and we cut all of this like this, all of these basses over here that I'm selecting are basses that are playing when the kick is still audible. So we're going to grab all of these, we're going to select all of this, we're going to put it on a new track, new audio track over here. Let's play both of them to hear if there are any clicks and pops. No, it's perfect, it's clean. So on this second one over here, we're just gonna actually add an EQ. It can just be like a normal EQ. You can use FabFilter Pro Q3, whatever EQ you'd like. It doesn't necessarily even need to be a linear phase EQ, to be very honest with you. So if we play this bass soloed, we can actually take all of this first harmonic off, like over here at 85. You can actually make it 48 dB per octave. You can hear the click over here. When both of these play together, they don't have the click. But let's just be safe over here and just grab all of these things and do a fade out of, let's say 15 samples. Right, and just to be safe on this one as well, we're going to add a fade out of 5 samples. They will sound like this together. So it doesn't clash as much on the low end. Let's compare this one to the one with the sampler. Alignment is very important to get that low end consistency, and also when you have these first notes of rolling basses that potentially can clash with the low end of your kick drum, you can use this technique. You can separate it on a different track and you can low cut the first harmonic over here so that it doesn't clash with this big low end that the kick is going to fill up over here. When you have the bass playing when the kick is not there anymore, obviously you can go full range and you can have all of that low harmonic. You know, it really doesn't matter. So yeah, this is actually kind of a short video, but it's a very important part of creating your kick and bass. Sometimes you think that you have the wrong samples and you keep trying to resynthesize your bass and make it different, but sometimes the only thing that it needs is to be aligned. Again, let me show you how it sounded without it and how muddy it sounded on the low end. And with the phase alignment and the LFO tool to clean the transients. All of a sudden it's a lot tighter, it's a lot better, and it's a lot more uniform. And it has a better relationship with the kick drum, which is very, very important in Psytrance. All right, guys, this was it. I hope you liked the video. I hope it helped you finding the right balance between the low frequency information of the kick and the bass, which is very, very important in Psytrance. On the next video, we're going to put some layers on it and finalize our kick and bass, so do not miss it next week, all right? If you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, follow me on social media, listen to my music, and all of that jazz. All right then, cheers and see you next week.